Nice. Okay, yeah, so you're going to learn something new today, but it won't feel very new here for the first 5 minutes. So today's, hey guys, look at it's November.
No, it's the first of the month.
It is. And today you are going to learn this. I said this before, and I kind of set out on this mission about a week or so ago, and then we got a little bit sidetracked. So today, you just can't do this. And I don't feel okay sending you out of high school onto wherever you go if you just don't know how to solve quadratic. So the kind of solving that we're going to quiz on here soon is factoring, and that's nice. And that's how we're going to start class today with that. But then we're going to encounter something different later on in the lesson. So just be advised that this is what we're learning today. It just won't feel like anything new for a little bit yet, but there's a reason I'm kind of setting you up for something here. So the first thing I want you to do, because you know how to do this, is I want you to solve an equation for me, and I want you to solve it by factoring. I'm going to make it as easy as I can make it. This should be, as the kids say, light work. Solving by factoring is what we're doing. Uh, all right, so we know to do this, right? We've done, I want to say like 50 of these by now, so we know to put our x's. We know that the signs that we choose have to be one of each, not because of the negative in the middle with the x, but the minus on the 6 tells us that there's 1 plus and 1 minus. And logically, we don't want to use a 1 and a 6. So we're going to use a plus with the 2 and a minus with the 3. And remember that that's not solving an equation by factoring. That's just factoring. And so to solve the equation, what are my answers? I agree. So I'm going somewhere with this. I'd like to do one more problem, and I want you obviously to do it, but then we'll talk about what we're doing here today. So here's your other equation that I want you to solve. This one will be a little bit more of a challenge for you. It is. It's like all we've been doing is just solving by factoring. So you're going to build your shells, your 2 sets of parentheses, find the right combo that works. Like you're not going to have a hard time making 6x squared. You're not going to have a hard time making negative 12. As always, you're going to have a hard time making the plus 1x in the middle, right? And so I'll give you a little bit of time for this. Find it? Did you find it yet? Okay. Anybody find the combo? So I would generally start with this template. And if you don't even know what I'm talking about with that template, then you should probably plan to start spending some time with me. We know we have to make 6x squared. And so 3 and 2 is a pretty viable split for that. And then all you got to focus on now, if you don't get this, again, I got to re-examine my career choice. You're just trying to make negative 12. Like that's it. You're making negative 12. Yeah, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 6 and 2, 4, 3, 3, 4. And if you're worried about the plus in the middle, then you're getting ahead of yourself. You just make the dang minus 12. And then we'll check the smiley things and see if we get lucky and they add, right? We don't control the 1x. We control making the minus 12. Anybody find it yet? What is it? So what I need to know what I should put here. If I'm taking notes, I'd like to be able to fill these out. Yeah. So, going way back in time, of course, Sage knows we don't get any gold stars around here for doing that yellow connector. That's like fourth grade. 3 times 2 is 6. That's easy. And we also don't get any gold stars for making the red connector. Like that's easy. That's like third grade. -4 times 3 is -12. Whoop-de-doo. Again and again and again and again and again, what we do get gold stars for is making sure, let's check Sage's handiwork. What does the blue one make? It does not make 8x. It makes -8x. And what does the green one make? And what is -8x plus 9x? 1x, and that's exactly what we wanted, which tells us that the factoring is good, which then tells us that we can proceed to find then the solutions. And what solution do we get out of this guy? And this guy. Good job. Good job on that one, Sage. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the assist on that. So you guys feel like good so far? If you're super lost on that, then this next quiz, you're just gonna be rough if you don't get in the way of that in the next couple of days. So, is that a phone you got there? Nice. Okay, hang on a second. I'm just gonna pause my recording. Good. So that should be kind of a nice review for you there. So what I wanted to show you was something that I hadn't really intended, but I thought today's lesson would you'd feel better about it if you could understand where we're coming from. So, you see this part of this equation up here? Let me put a blue box around it. You see this, right? Have you guys ever used Desmos? It's like a graphing calculator website. It graphs things for us. I'm going to show you, and I'm making a huge leap here, but some of you might find this to be kind of cool. So could you take what's in that blue box, and here in about 9 seconds, I'm going to ask you to tell me what that was in case I forget. Are you ready? So you'll want to start using this. It's you just go to desmos.com, DESMOS, and then click on graphing calculator. It brings up this app that'll graph things for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in y equals. Instead of equals 0, I'm going to put in y equals. And I believe the equation was x squared. Now I want you to study this graph with me for a second here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that, have you ever seen one of these before? When you graph anything with x squared, it makes one of these shapes. We'll probably do a little more with this graphing stuff, but it's called a parabola. You ever heard of that? But take a look at the graph. Do you notice anything about the graph as it relates to what we just did? Study hard. What answers did we get when we did the problem on the board just a couple minutes ago? Be more.
X equals 3 and x equals -2.
Did you say x equals 3? Look at where I'm moving my mouse. Do you see that?
Yeah. And then x equals
So the graph actually crosses the x-axis at the places that we found. It crosses at 3 and it crosses at -2. Neat, right? Great question. So let's look at the next one too. And the next one you'll recall was like, I'm going to do my best here. I know it was 6x squared plus x minus 12. Let's take a look. First off, you see that this parabola is pretty odd looking, right? And the reason why it's so skinny and steep is because of the 6 in front. It makes the arms of your graph go really fast. But anyways, let's go study this. And Brandon asked a great question. So how does this work with the one that we just did? Well, let's go look at this one on the left first. You see how the parabola is like shooting up in 2 different places? Can you tell me what that point is? What is the x value of that point? -1.5, which is -3/2. And wasn't one of our solutions -3/2? Dope. Now, what was the other one that we got? Can you guys say 4/3 as a mixed number? What would that be? 1 and 1/3. And now can you say that as an annoying decimal?
1.32.
Yes, good job. Good basic math there. 1 1/3 is the same as 1.3. And as I head over here and I start zooming in on this point, do you see where we're headed towards?
Yeah.
1.3 repeating. So the point of this, and you may not find this all that interesting or exciting, but the point of this is that these equations we've been solving are actually models of graphs, and the solutions that we get are the points where the arms of the graph come up and ping the x-axis in 2 different places. Neat, right? So today we're going to do some that don't work very nice. like this. And so I'm going to keep my Desmos open, and I'm going to graph one for you that purposely does not have. It's going to have some pretty ghetto-y answers, and that'll give us a chance to learn something here. So let's do like x squared minus 3x minus 15. And I'm going to reset my view, and we're going to look. Now, as I zoom in on these, it's pretty hard for me to get a feel as to what that is. If I click on it, it says 5.653. That's not good. And if I zoom in on the other one over on the left, it says negative 2.653. Those are not good decimals, guys. So what I'm going to teach you today is a system for finding those answers using a means that does not involve factoring. So I'm going to head back into your notes now, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to try to solve an equation like this. So if you're sleeping, because I'm boring you to death, I can't necessarily blame you if you just dozed off in those 38 seconds, but come back to, because we're going to solve another equation. So back to the notes we go. I'm going to write an equation up here on the board. I think the one I just had was like, you guys don't remember what it was, do you? Was it x squared minus 3x minus 15?
Yeah.
X squared minus 3x minus 15 equals 0. If I wanted to wage psychological warfare on you, I would say, I want you to solve this by factoring. Like, that wouldn't be nice, because you're really good students and we're having a great time. We're having a great year, and you guys very dutifully would do this. And you would know that there has to be one and there has to be a 1 plus and 1 minus, right? Now, how could I break down the 15? What times what? Yeah, the closest I'm going to get is if I put a 5 after the minus and a 3 after the plus. And this doesn't work. If you look back at all the ones I've had you do, they all work. Like, that's been on purpose. I wanted to make them all work. Nice. It's not going to work today. And that's why we have to have a new, like, more powerful weapon at our disposal, because now we have an opponent that's not going to fall for the same tricks. So first off, before we press on, I need to make sure you all are in agreement that that thing at the top of the TV cannot, I'm not just like messing with you, it literally cannot be factored. Do you agree with that? Okay. So this is what I was going to start a few days ago when I realized that we needed to learn some other stuff first. So what you're going to learn today is called the quadratic formula. And honestly, it works for all quadratic equations, but it primarily is used, or should be used, when you realize that it's your only option. So when I set an equation like this in front of you and say, solve it, and you go, I can't factor it. Well, thank goodness we have something else at our disposal. No, claro, siempre. Gracias. Yeah, thank you. So this song, I'm not going to actually sing it to you yet, but I will. I'll sing it again. Okay, you coaxing me and prodding me isn't going to help. You need to stop. Okay. You done? You done? Done? Okay, good. Eventually it's going to come back out of my mouth, but before I sing it again, I want to just put it up on the thing. And I don't know what it is about this quadratic formula. It sticks with people like glue. I can't possibly explain. It was mentioned at graduation 2 years ago, and I think Ryan Fogg sang it at graduation last year, and it's really starting to freak me out a little bit. But anyways, what I'm about to write on the board is the formula that you can use to solve any quadratic equation in the world, and it's fantastic. So watch out, because it's a little bit weird. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I'm going to write it in blue. You should write this down, and you should write it with great, loving, deliberate care. All right? Well, no, I don't think so. I guess I'll write it down, and then you can tell me what you think when I'm done. You're not going to know what any of this means yet, because I'm going to use some letters, and you're going to think, like, what just happened? So here it goes. X is going to equal the opposite of B when I say negative b, the trouble is that when b's already a negative, then it goes to the opposite and it becomes a positive. And then I spend all my time answering people's questions like, well, why did you put 4 there when it says negative b? So if you want to call it negative b, like when in the song, I always put it as negative b, but technically it's the opposite of b. You'll see. And then we're going to put plus or minus. That's a little plus or minus song. And then we're going to do the square root of, and notice that square root sign that I'm drawing is pretty long. That's because there's some stuff going to happen inside of there. So inside of there, we're going to do b squared minus 4 times a times c. We read that as b squared minus 4ac.
Is that it?
Nope. And then it's all divided by. Notice when I make this division sign that it's all, the entire thing is over 2 times a. It's sung to the tune of the little Jack in the Box. You know, like when you turn the little crank and it's like da-dun, da-dun, da-da, da-da. Have you ever heard that before? So it kind of flows nice. It goes like this. You say the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And it just, I don't know what it is about that little stupid song, but it tends to help people get the quadratic formula so that they don't need to look in their notes to get it. Nothing wrong with looking at your notes as a resource, but eventually, if you allow that corny little song into yourself, then it just becomes part of something that you know. So it's sort of infectious. Anyhow, go ahead.
No, fine.
It is done. Yes. What do you think then? Now, can I answer your question? Is that long? It's not bad at all, right? So now the $100 question is, okay, fine. Like I've got the formula there, big guy, but what does this mean? Well, there are numbers inside of your quadratic equation that we need to address. The first of them is a. And a is going to be the number that's right in front of x squared. Can you see him? What's in front of x squared?
1.
Very good. So the first thing we're all going to do is write down that a equals 1. Would you like to guess where we can find b? In front of the next term. Very good. And so what could we say then is b? It is not 3. It is negative 3. Good job back there. Negative 3, because it's a minus 3x. And of course, now you know where I'm headed with this. C is negative 15. Someone who's good at the quadratic formula will always write these numbers down. So you, as always, when I teach things, have the choice to take my advice to heart or to just say no. So my advice is you should always write down what A is, what B is, and what C is. Are you ready? We're going to finish this, and then I'll give you a little bit of a brain break here, because I know I can always tell from your body language that I've exceeded my talking time. So let's finish this one. You ready? All right, so we're going to take that blue formula up in the corner of the television, and we're going to change all of the letters into numbers. And again, going back to Brandon's question, like, why didn't I just say negative b when I wrote it? Well, if I think about this, let's start out, I'll write in blue, and I'm going to say x equals. Here we go. Now, the first thing that the quadratic formula demands of us is that we do the opposite of b. What is b? What's the opposite of negative 3? It is 3. So I don't care if you say it is negative b or opposite b, but what I need you to understand is that first step in, your very first step in is to take whatever b is, switch it, and write it down. And then I'm going to copy down my plus or minus sign. And then I'm going to put a big square root sign. And for this step, I'd rather you never show any work because people do crazy stuff. The next step says you have to take b and square it, right? And what happens when you square a negative number? It becomes a positive. So what is negative 3? Because that's b, right? What's negative 3 when you square it?
9.
So we're just going to write 9 right here. We're not going to write any math problem to do. You follow these steps, you're going to be great at this. Next thing we're going to do is we're all going to write minus 4. And then we're going to put 2 empty sets of parentheses. Just kind of say to those parentheses quietly, like, I'll be right back. And then we're going to go to the bottom and we're going to put all over 2 times a, which, yes, you're exactly right, Colby. In this case, 2 times a is 2 times 1, which is exactly 2. Now, I like then to go back and backfill my AC values, because that's what's next. What's up, bro? from right here because it's built into the formula. Make sense? Okay.
So 9 comes from.
Which the 9 came from b squared, and b is -3.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like -3 squared. All better? Any other questions? Yeah, man. Question or just a hat flip? Okay, so let's go back now into those awkward empty parentheses and fill them with A and C. Who's A?
4.
So I'm going to go back into this one and put 1. And who's C? -15. Very good. I should plan better because we're about to get a number that is invariably someone's going to comment on. So in about 2.5 or 3 minutes, mark my words, I'm going to try to right now predict who's going to say it. Got it. I know who it is. No, I know who it is. Let's keep going. You'll see what I mean. All right, you ready? Any questions so far? The only math we've done so far is we took the opposite of -3. Well, that was hard. We squared -3. Well, that was hard. And then on the bottom, we did 2 times 1. So really, yeah. It is not. In fact, if you ever do 9 minus 4, then you'll miss these 100.0% of the time. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to press our way into the square root sign, and we're going to look at this as a math problem. Forget the 3, forget the plus or minus, forget the 2. What I want you guys to do is help me with this math problem. I'm drawing a little yellow bubble cloud around it. And you're welcome to use your calculators for this. You, I hope, agree that the 9 and the -4 have to be separated from each other because the order of operations demands that we not subtract before we multiply, right? So what's inside the yellow bubble cloud is just a number times a number times a number. What is -4 times 1? What is -4 times -15? It is. And so since it's positive 60, what it really says now is this. And I want you to notice that I didn't write a minus sign. And the reason is because inside of the yellow bubble cloud, thank you, Cale, he sees it. Because inside the yellow bubble cloud, there was a -4 that eventually multiplied into a -15, creating a positive situation. And I guess, I don't know if Cale's laugh counted as a comment, but Cale might just win the battle. So our next step is going to say x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of, thank you, Cale, all over 2. Is that going to happen? We make it. We did. Yes. Now, that's the final answer. Now, you might wonder, what in God's green earth, what kind of garbage dog water answer is that? Do you guys all have calculators out? Dude, could you get one, please? We're going to do that right now because it's actually both. Are you ready for this? I'm gonna blow your mind. It's pretty. Yes. So I want you to first consider, before you grab your calculator and do what I ask you to do, like Bryce pointed out, that there is a plus sign and there's also a minus sign. If I trace the plus sign, it's going to say this: 3 plus the square root of 69 divided by 2. And if you also, of course, see a minus sign, I'm circling it in yellow right there, right? That one would say 3 minus the square root of 69 all over 2. Now, you guys all know how to do square roots on your calculators? I want you guys all to calculate 3 plus the square root of 69. So with that sitting on your screen, I would like you to hit divided by 2, because that's what it says to do on the board, right? Say it again. 5.653. Okay. Let's go do the yellow one. I need your help because I'm not using a calculator here. Can you guys also type in for me 3 now minus the square root of 69 and make sure you hit enter?
I got 8.3.
Yeah, you got to add 3 to it because it says 3 plus that. Type in 3 plus.
3 plus. Oh, I got 11.3.
Yeah, divide it by 2, bro. Just hit divided by 2. I need you to catch up here.
5.6.
Negative 2.653. Listen, you may not find this even the least bit exciting or neat, but I want you to go back now and see something that we just, using some pretty dope algebra, figured some things out. You have these numbers written on your paper because I'm about to switch screens. Quit looking at the clock. You hurt my feelings when you do that. So you see those two, the red and the yellow numbers? I'm going to go back to Desmos. And you remember when we graphed this, right? How we got these funky numbers? And remember how this was the one over here, and when I click on it, I'm not going to make you read to me, but you can clearly see that that says 5.653. So that's actually 3 plus root 69 divided by 2. It's just the decimalized version of it. And as of course you would guess, the one on the left-hand side, when I click on it, is going to be our negative 2.653. So I have no idea. I see a little nodding of head, and I'm glad if I flip some light bulbs on for you. But this is a really cool thing to see that we actually found the answers manually, and our answers are perfect. These are decimalized, sort of close versions of the answers, right? So I'm not going to talk too much more about the graphs for a while. I just wanted you to get to see that that's the relationship. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up another problem, and I'm going to kind of shut my mouth and see if you can get through the first part of the quadratic formula for something like this. That's it.
X equals.
So your answer, as far as like if this were a test, the answer that I would have you put would be what's in the big blue box. X equals 3 plus or minus root 69, all divided by 2. Done. Presto. You okay, bud? You sure? I believe in you. You should. Let's go again. I'd like to see how far, if you guys would like to take a quick minute and relax your brain, whatever, I get it. But then I'd like to see how far into the process you can get all by yourself. Obviously, it's not factorable, so that's not what we're doing. I want you to use the quadratic formula. I trust by now that you all have written down what A equals. What does A equal? 1. What does B equal? 6. Positive 6. What does C equal? 3. Positive 3. Very good. So with those three numbers, you go charged into that blue formula. And I'm going to write down my version of it. And then when you're ready, you can look up and we'll compare notes. See how we did. Yep. You got it. Mm-hmm. So when you're ready, you can peek up. I'm not done by any means. I've just made a slight bit of progress. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. Feel good about it so far?
Oh, yeah.
So I have made it to a certain point that you might perceive to be the end. And when you're ready, you can look and compare.
That's what you got?
Yep.
How did you get that?
I'm going to walk you through it here in a sec.
There you go. I was a friend.
There,
I got it. It's because I put negative. Did you subtract 12 or? Oh.
great question. So
I did it right. I screwed up on my side.
did you switch it to plus? How many of you guys have 48 inside your square root sign, just out of curiosity? So the reason you did that is because you assumed that this would be like last time. But if you look at my yellow bubble cloud up there, and this is really important, this is where almost all the mistakes happen, for the record, is the yellow cloud. Like almost all, for real. Do you see that there's a -4 and then it goes times a positive times a positive? What's a negative times a positive times another positive? It's still a negative. So that's why in the next step, I don't have 36 plus 12. I have 36 minus 12. I left it as a negative because it doesn't switch into a plus. So I hope now those of you that put 48 can see why it should not be plus. It is simple math, but that doesn't mean it's simple for you right now. It will be once you know how to do it, like everything else. It's -4 times 1 times 3. So you just do it all in a row, bro, just like you've always done. Like if I said, what's 2 times 3 times 5? You'd go, oh, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. You just literally multiply and just knock them out. So I did -4. I did -4 times 1, and I got -4. And then -4 times 3 is -12.
Yeah.
This is how we learn. So the yellow cloud is just a string of multiplication. Just knock it out. Just multiply it out, bro. That's all.
And that's it.
Not yet. Bryce?
So, is there a bit like this solving for this about the one?
Yeah, I mean, technically we forget about it because, like, what's the point, right? But I'm sure not going to like not write it, right? That would be terrible. But yeah, it doesn't have any effect on anything, right? Uh-huh.
Why do we just get it?
Why don't we?
4 times.
Because A is not always going to be 1. Because now I'm just warming you up with easy problems. Eventually A is going to be like 3 and 4. And then if you get rid of it, it'll mess the whole thing up. Are you asking why can't we just get rid of it?
No, I'm asking like why we do it.
Okay, so here, let me ask you a question. And I don't mean this is going to sound rude, but it's perspective, not rudeness. This is like a 4th grade math question. So don't freak out. Are you ready? I want you to do 8 times 1 times 2. What's the answer?
16. No.
What's 8 times 1? What's 8 times 1? What's 8 times 2? So the answer is 16. You understand that?
What's that again? What? Why does the 8 just disappear then? That makes no sense.
What's happening?
Brendan, 8 times 1 is 8.
Listen, before I came into your life and made everything so difficult, if I had asked you this question, I'm not kidding around. If I'd asked you this question 8 years ago, you would have said 16 and you would have been right. Listen, when we multiply, are you thinking of like distribution or something? Are you trying to do something fancy? Here, let's try again. Let's practice. What's 2 times 3 times 4? Just follow your heart, Winslow. What's 2 times 3? What's 6 times 4?
Wait, what are you? I don't understand.
Are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
Well, let's stop them. Try not to say dirty language in my recording, but I can help you. If any of them make any comments, I'll boot them. How's that? Come visit with me, and then we'll talk without them. Okay? Everyone okay with where that's coming from?
Yeah.
This is not algebra right now, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Is it's literally just something that you could have done years ago. Before I came into your life and made your lives harder than they had to be, I mark my words. If I had walked in, and I didn't know you guys when you were in 5th grade, but mark my words, if I had walked into your 5th grade classroom and said, okay, class, I'm Mr. Ahern, I teach over at the high school. You'll meet me in about 3 or 4 years. I'm going to ask you guys a question. What's 3 times 4 times 2? Every single one of you, before I came and complicated everything, would have known how to do this. You would have gone, okay, let's see. Oh, this is a high school teacher. I better get this right. What's 3 times 4? And then you all would have done 12 times 2 and gotten. Every single one of you could have done that long before you met me, correct? That's all the yellow box is a string of multiplications put together. Are we clear? Okay. Anything that's your thinking, and I'm glad. These are the things I need to hear you say out loud. What you're trying to do is something called distribution. And if I wanted you to distribute, it would look very different. If I wanted you to distribute, it would be like 3 times 4 plus 2. Then you could do 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 times 2 is 6, and 12 plus 6. You're talking about a completely different scenario here. So let's, rather than talk about what you were doing, let's talk about, do you know now how to do it right?
Yes.
It is just this times this times this. You just knock them out like dominoes. Yes. Right. So basically, I feel like now I can go back and talk about this some more. Now that I think you're all on board, I'm fingers crossed that you can see now how I got 24. So what I did is, and when I draw my yellow bubble cloud, I'm very careful with my pen. I'm very deliberate with what I do. When I drew my yellow box, I left the 36 out, right? Because the order of operations says he's got to wait. I'm going to go do some multiplication. And then when I'm done, then 36, you can combine with that. Not till I'm done. So are we all at peace with the fact that the yellow box, when we multiply the yellow cloud things together, what is -4 times 1? 4. It is -4. That is -4 times +1. That is -4. And what is -4 times 3? And that is why I put -12 after the 36. Everybody on board? Now, 36 minus 12 is? You might think that that was a ridiculous amount of time to have spent on that, but the fact that you guys are willing to stop me and ask me and not let me go on means more than you know, because that means now that when we work on this for the next couple of days, we're not going to have to stop every time and talk about what we're doing right and wrong. Does anyone, or we feel like we can press on? Now, you'll remember a few days ago, I called an audible and I was going to start the quadratic formula. And then do you remember that worksheet that I gave you? I even started you on the daddy delt. Do you remember the roots that you had to break down into trees? Yeah. This is why I taught you that now, because this answer, I'm going to put a box around it, is not a final answer. You might look at this and say, well, this is just like the last problem because it's done. But what I need you to know now is that that thing we did is because of this. I need you to identify that the square root of 24, can you wake him up, please? That the square root of 24 can be broken down with a tree. So let's practice what we've learned. Not all of you finished this assignment, but hopefully you got enough out of it. How can I break down a root 24?
6 and 4.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even choose 2 and 12. They suck. You wouldn't choose 3 and 8. They suck. You only choose the ones that are going to give us progress. And in this case, I'm going to put a 4 in the first one and a 6 in the second one. And it's going to become 2 root 6. Are you with me? Because you can take the square root of 4 and make it a 2, right? Those of you who did not complete Delta Math assignment number 25, you're going to feel the burn. And that's I feel no shame about that. That's your bad for not getting it done. So you should have practiced this process 40 times by now.
Would it be x equals -6 plus minus 2 root 6 over 2? Is that how you say that?
I couldn't have said it any better myself, and I'm not going to. However, I have some bad news. We're still not done. Now we have to identify. I'm going to draw something that you shall come to know and love as the Dorito of doom. And I want you, I'm so sorry that this lesson takes long, but it's still your job to stay awake. The more you write, the more likely you are to stay awake, by the way.
That -6.
That's the opposite of B. We did it right away. It's the negative B at the beginning of the quadratic formula like 15 minutes ago.
No, but why did you make you think?
Because B is positive 6. Because B is 6. And the first thing that the formula says right here is to do the opposite of B. So you always switch B before you write it down. If B had been 5, we'd have written -5. If B had been -4, we'd have written +4. Got it? The last thing we have to do now is draw the Dorito of doom. Y'all see the Dorito of doom? It's like a green guacamole Dorito. Do you see that all the numbers in there? Rocky, I heard you say it, that every number in the Dorito of doom can be divided by 2. This is now going to be our final answer. What is -6 divided by 2? So I have -3 plus or minus. What is 2 divided by 2? 1. And then I'm going to put the square root of 6. And what is 2 divided by 2? Now, this answer is correct. It's just creepy. I hope you would agree that we don't ever need to put anything over 1, so I'm going to erase that. And I hope you also would agree that I never have to put 1 times anything, so I'm also going to erase that. And this now, you can put a box around this and say that is the final answer. Because when the parabola comes up with its arms, there's 1 over here and 1 over here. So it's like -3 plus the square root of 6 is one answer, and -3 minus the square root of 6 is the other answer. You see how that's like 2 built in for the price of 1? There are a lot. Yes. Let's do another one as fast as we can. Because that one I think that took 20 minutes. That was pretty epic. But I think we learned some stuff and I'm feeling okay about it. So let's go again. So I'll just, I'm only going to get you started in the sense that I want to make sure we all use the same number. So everybody help a guy out. What's A? What's B? What's C? Nice job. All right, with that, I'm going to step out of the way and let you now go through. See how far you can get.
Wait, I think I got a quick question.
B is -5. But when you start your quadratic formula, you put +5 because the formula says to do the opposite of B. Wow. It's a tamale, and it's unbelievable. Wow. I'm going to get started so that we still have like 4 or 5 minutes, so don't worry about the clock. I'm going to get started, and I only want you to look at my work when you're ready to compare what you've done to me. Like, don't copy mine, just compare. B squared. You okay?
No.
No, like you're mad at yourself, or no, you still don't know how I got 25? Okay. Let's make sure everyone gets to this point first. Okay. Did you get the same thing as I got for the first step? Yeah. Good. The what? The one on the bottom?
How'd you get 4?
Because it's 2a and a is 2. The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. 2a, 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 2a. The bottom is 2 times a. The bottom is 2 times a. And if a is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. And that's where I got the 4. Everyone check your blue step or check your first step with my blue step. And let's make sure we're all on the same page. Almost. You just forgot to put it all over 4. You've done a lot of really good things here. But it all should be over 4 because don't forget it's all over 2. 2a.
Bottom of that.
So you need a 2a on the bottom. Other than that, really good. I got to muscle through this, so don't be the backpack bandit. I'm going to get you out of here on time, so don't be packing up, okay? Give me just a moment, please. This is my yellow bubble cloud. You're going to see me draw this, I think, probably every time. What is a negative times a positive times another negative? We switch back to being a positive. So what we really have now is 25 plus 8, which should lead you all to this happy place. 5 plus or minus the square root of 33 all over 4. Can you break down the square root of 33? Then this gets a box, and this we proudly say, you, sir, it's our final answer. You don't have to do all that extra work when the root is dead. Now you may pack up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to do a ton of quadratic formula. Some formula. Did you change the name on that again and try to give it to me?